have you ever felt so cornered by life that you do anything to break free? That's exactly where Monica found herself. Drowning in massive debt, every day was a struggle, a constant weight pressing down on her. Her dreams of a normal life, of pursuing her passions, felt like distant stars in a sky clouded by despair. The city hummed outside the hospital window, neon lights bouncing off wet streets after an early evening drizzle. Monica pressed her forehead against the cool glass, braids brushing her cheeks, and let out a slow sigh. Her backpack sagged with books she hadn't had time to open, and in her hand, she clutched a crumpled hospital bill. How am I supposed to pay all this? She muttered to herself. The fluorescent hallway buzzed faintly, interrupted only by the squeak of nurses' shoes and the occasional beep from the monitors in nearby rooms. Monica's heart clenched as she walked into her mother's room, each step heavier than the last. Her mother, Linda, lay propped up on the hospital bed, frail and pale but still managing a smile. Tubes snaked around her arms, and the rhythmic hiss of oxygen filled the space. "Hey, Mom," Monica said softly, pulling a chair close to the bed. She tried to sound upbeat, but her voice cracked. "Monica," her mother whispered, her voice thin but warm. "You're here early. I didn't expect you till later. I wanted to check in before my last class," Monica said, forcing a smile. She reached out and took her mother's hand, feeling the frailty of the bones beneath her fingers. "How are you feeling today?" Linda's eyes fluttered closed briefly. "Better, I think. The pain medicine is doing its job." "But Monica," her voice faltered. "I hate seeing you carrying so much on your shoulders." Monica's throat tightened. She had always been proud, the kind of daughter who bore the weight silently. "Mom, I can handle it. It's just loans, bills, everything piling up." Linda opened her eyes, searching her daughter's face. "I know, baby, I know. But don't sacrifice yourself. You're all I have." Tears pricked Monica's eyes. She forced them back, blinking rapidly. "I'm trying not to, Mom. I'm really trying." The nurse entered quietly, adjusting her mother's voice. "Everything looks stable for now," she said with a kind smile. "You kids keep each other strong, okay?" Once the nurse left, Monica slumped into the chair. The weight of reality hit her tuition deadlines, her mother's mounting medical bills, student loans threatening to drown her after graduation. She was an only child, the sole person responsible for her family's survival. Monica whispered, hugging herself. "I don't know how we'll get out of this one." Her mother reached up and brushed a strand of hair from Monica's forehead. "You'll figure it out, Monica. You always do." Monica bit her lip, glancing at the city skyline outside. Ideas, some dark, some desperate, started creeping into her mind. She knew the straight path: more classes, part-time jobs. Asking for help wasn't enough. Not anymore. She looked down at her hands, flexing her fingers nervously. "There has to be another way, a faster way," she whispered, almost to herself. The city lights reflected in her eyes, casting a dim glow over her contemplative face. A storm of thoughts collided in her head: survival, love for her mother, pride, fear. And somewhere, buried beneath the panic, curiosity sparked. What lengths would she go to save her family? Monica's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out to see a message from her student loan company: immediate payment required or account sent to collections. Her chest tightened. "Shit," she muttered, setting the phone down with a heavy thud. Her mother noticed the sudden tension. "Monica? What is it?" "Just bills," Monica said, forcing a small laugh she didn't feel. "Nothing I can't handle." The next evening, Monica sat in her small, cluttered apartment, textbook spread across the coffee table and a half-empty takeout container at her side. The hum of the city outside felt louder here, almost pressing against her windows. She rubbed her temples, the weight of bills and deadlines pressing down on her like a physical force. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a lone notice. It was a message from her friend, Tasha. "Hey, girl, heard something wild. Not sure if it's real. Ever heard of an auction the Yakuza runs? Like crazy underground stuff. Monica stared at the screen, hard skipping. She knew Tasha liked to exaggerate, but she typed back, almost without thinking. What do you mean? Minutes later, another text arrived. Rumor is, women can get sold for cash. People say it's like an auction. Totally illegal. Totally dangerous. But maybe life-changing if you're desperate enough. Monica leaned back in her chair, braids falling over her shoulders. The words desperate and life-changing echoed in her head. She swallowed hard. Yeah, desperate, she muttered under her breath. Her gaze flicked to her mother's hospital bill on the counter, then to the student loan notice she had left pinned on the fridge. The numbers were looming and impossible to ignore. Her mind raced. Could this even be real? Could something this extreme actually help me? Later, she met Tasha at their favorite diner, a quiet spot tucked in the corner of the city. The neon sign outside flickered as rain splashed on the windows. Monica stirred her coffee absent-mindedly. Tasha, you're serious? Monica asked, eyes wide. You're saying there's an auction, run by the Yakuza, where women are sold for money? Tasha leaned in, lowering her voice. Yeah, it's insane. But people say it's real. I mean, not like open to the public. Very secret. Very controlled. And yeah, some girls make enough to clear insane debts. Student loans, family bills, whatever. Monica's heart pounded. And what do the girls get in return? Just money? Tasha shrugged, looking uneasy. Depends on the buyer. Some don't care. Others, well, you have to decide if you can handle that. Monica's stomach twisted. She thought of her mother, alone in that hospital bed, weak but smiling. She thought of the mountain of bills threatening to bury them both. She thought of herself, proud, smart, yet utterly powerless in this system. I don't know if I could, Monica whispered, voice trembling. It's illegal. It's dangerous. I could. Get caught, get hurt. Yeah, Tasha said gently. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying, if you're desperate, it exists. And it works. Monica stared into her coffee cup, swirling the liquid as if the answer would emerge from it. Her pride clashed with her survival instincts. She hated the idea, but the seed had been planted. Mom, I'll figure this out, she whispered to herself. I'll save you. She decided to sell the one thing she felt she still owned, her innocence. Monica sat on the bus, gripping her backpack tightly, heart pounding like a drum in her chest. She had followed Tasha's instructions exactly, meet at the back entrance of a private club in the industrial district between midnight and 12:30. The bus hissed to a stop. Monica took a deep breath and stepped off into the misty alley. Steam rose from grates in the pavement, curling around the flickering orange lights. She saw him, a man in a dark suit, smoking a thin cigarette, standing near the entrance. The moment she locked eyes with him, she felt the weight of his scrutiny. You Monica? He asked, his accent precise but soft. Yes, she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. He nodded and gestured for her to follow. The alley seemed to stretch endlessly, then narrowed into a black door with a discreet brass emblem. He knocked 3 times in a precise rhythm. A peephole slid open. At the end of the corridor, a woman in a tailored black suit sat behind a desk, her expression unreadable. This had to be the mediator, the gatekeeper. Monica, the mediator said, glancing down at a clipboard. You're aware of what this entails. Monica swallowed hard. I know it's dangerous. But I have no choice. My mother, my loans. Her voice cracked, but she forced herself to continue. I have to do this. The mediator didn't flinch. You understand it's not a game. You are being evaluated for discretion, compliance, and certain qualities. She slid a folder across the desk. Inside were questions about her background, appearance, education, and family situation. Afterwards, the mediator led her into a small waiting room. Velvet chairs lined the walls, and a low hum of conversation floated from an adjoining room. Monica's pulse raced as she glanced at the people around her. Other women, some younger, some older, all composed and watchful. A Japanese man in a tailored black suit entered quietly. His presence was overwhelming, a storm of quiet intensity. His eyes were dark and unreadable. Monica noticed him first because of his posture, tall, impeccably groomed, exuding calm authority. He didn't approach her directly, but his eyes scanned the room, lingering on her for a heartbeat too long. She felt a chill. Candidates will be assessed individually, the mediator continued. Your selections are based on discretion, composure, and, she paused, eyeing Monica carefully, the impression you leave. I understand. Monica nodded. Yes, finally, the mediator smiled faintly. You've demonstrated the composure and resolve required. If you continue, you will enter the auction. Do you wish to proceed? Monica's hands shook, but she forced herself to meet the mediator's gaze. I want to proceed. I need this, for my mother, for my debts. I can do it, the mediator nodded, rising. Very well. Wait here. You will be called in next. Monica sank into the chair, heart hammering, mind racing. She glanced again at the tall Japanese man in black, the one she suspected was Funmiko. Their eyes met briefly, and she felt an unexplainable mix of fear and fascination. She had no idea the life-changing danger that awaited her, or the man who would ultimately claim her. As the door opened to call her in, she took a shaky breath, repeating under her breath, I can do this. I have to do this. For Mom. Monica's heels clicked softly on the polished floor as she stepped into the chamber. The room was enormous, lined with velvet curtains that muted every sound, lit by low chandeliers that cast a dim, golden glow. The air smelled faintly of incense and expensive cologne. She froze for a heartbeat, scanning the crowd. Men in dark suits whispered in low tones, their expressions unreadable, calculating. The women, like her, sat on the side, each one composed, their gazes steady. Her heart thumped. This is real. I'm really here. The mediator stepped forward. Monica, a college student auctioning off her virginity. Monica took a deep breath, straightened her shoulders, and stepped into the center of the room. Her braids brushed her shoulders, and she lifted her chin, trying to mask the tremble in her hands. A few murmurs rippled through the room. Monica's eyes flicked nervously toward the tall man at the back. He didn't move, didn't blink too much. But she felt it, the intensity of his gaze. It was like he was scanning her, weighing her not just on what she said, but how she carried herself. The mediator gave a small nod. Bidding begins. Monica's stomach knotted as envelopes were handed to the bidders. One by one, the envelopes were opened, whispers of numbers floating like ghosts through the air. She felt the man at the back shift slightly, his gaze unwavering. He didn't raise an envelope immediately. He didn't speak. He just watched. The next bid came in from another man. Monica's heart sank a little. The room felt impossibly quiet except for the whispers of the mediator announcing each bid. Finally, a single envelope was placed on the table in front of the mediator. A number was read aloud. Silence fell, then a subtle movement. His envelope sliding forward. All eyes followed it. Monica felt the shift in the air. She hadn't realized it. But everyone was watching him too. The mediator nodded toward the envelope. He is the highest bidder, Monica announced. Monica's heart skipped a beat. She looked toward the back again, eyes meeting his for the first time directly. His expression was calm, measured, but there was something more. Something like recognition. Interest. Maybe even a hint of approval. He took a small step forward, and Monica's chest tightened. Fear and fascination tangled together. This is him, the man I'm dealing with. The mediator gestured for her to step out. Monica's legs felt heavy, but she followed. Her eyes still locked, briefly, on the man. As the doors closed behind her, she whispered to herself, trying to steady her shaking hands. I can do this. I have to. For Mom, the man in the back, still watching her retreat, gave a faint nod. Unreadable but deliberate. Monica followed the mediator through a series of narrow, dimly lit corridors. Her heels clicked against polished tile, echoing in the silence. Finally, they stopped in front of a set of double doors. The mediator gave a small nod. This is where you meet him. His name is Funmiko Nagasaki. Remember everything we discussed. Monica swallowed and nodded. Her throat felt dry, and her palms were damp, but she straightened her shoulders. The doors opened, and the room beyond took her breath away. It was luxurious without being ostentatious, with dark hardwood floors, low lighting that highlighted the room's sleek lines, and a single bar along one wall stocked with bottles she couldn't name. And then she saw him. Funmiko sat in a high-backed leather chair, dark hair slicked back, sharp eyes observing her. He didn't rise immediately. Instead, he let her take in the room, let her take in him. There was an almost predatory patience in the way he studied her and saw the obvious fear in her eyes. Monica felt her pulse spike. She swallowed and stepped forward. I'm Monica, she said, keeping her voice steady, though she could feel it wavering inside. I understand why I'm here, and I want to proceed. His lips curved in a faint, almost imperceptible smile. Proceed, he repeated, his voice low, smooth, measured. Do you know who I am? She shook her head, hesitating. No, I don't. I just know you are Funmiko Nagasaki, the highest bidder. He leaned forward slightly, elbows resting on his knees, and studied her like a sculptor appraising a raw piece of marble. And what do you see in yourself? He asked quietly, almost teasingly. Monica blinked, caught off guard. I'm capable. I follow rules when necessary. I'm strong for my mother. I have to be. His eyes narrowed slightly in interest. There was fire in her words, and he recognized it immediately. I see, he murmured, almost to himself. You are different from the others. Her stomach fluttered. She didn't know if that was a compliment or a warning. She kept her voice steady. I have no choice, she admitted softly. This is for my mother. For my debts. I have to survive. Funmiko steadied her closely. His expression softened, just slightly, but the sharp edge never left his eyes. You understand what you're stepping into? Yes, he asked. I think so, she said. I don't fully understand it. But I know I have to try. He leaned back in his chair, the motion deliberate, confident, good. Courage is rare. Composure is rarer. His eyes flicked briefly over her form, assessing more than just words. I don't choose often. You caught my attention. That is why you are here. That is why you will stay. Monica's throat went dry. Fear and fascination collided in her chest. She didn't know what his words fully meant, but she knew one thing. She was no longer just a participant in a transaction. She was a player in his world now, and he had already singled her out. The mediator stepped back, quietly observing the exchange. Funmiko finally gave a subtle nod, dismissing her. Leave us, he said. But deep down, she knew this was only the beginning. Funmiko's eyes had told her more than words could. He saw her, truly saw her, and she would have to navigate the dangerous, intoxicating world he ruled, without losing herself entirely. Monica hesitated, then turned, stepping back into the corridor. Her heart pounded like a drum. She followed him into his car. The driver opened the door for her, and she looked back, waiting for Funmiko to enter with her, but he didn't move. Follow him, he will settle you down. Funmiko said, Are you leaving me? You can't back out of our deal. He grinned. Do not be in a hurry. I will join you soon. She said nothing. Her heart dropped, but she tried not to let it show. The ride was smooth and silent, like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. The house was silent when Monica finally found herself alone. Minutes felt like hours. She rose slowly, moving carefully through the house, her heels clicking softly against polished hardwood floors. The interiors were breathtaking. The minimalistic luxury contrasted sharply with the dim, almost ominous atmosphere of the building, dark wood panels, soft carpets, and walls adorned with calligraphy scrolls that seemed to float under the warm light. Monica paused, her breath catching. The strokes were bold, deliberate, and full of meaning she didn't fully understand. So much discipline, so much beauty. She traced her fingers along the edge of one scroll, awed by the care and precision. "You like it," a voice said behind her. Her head snapped up. Funmiko stood in the doorway looking at her, leaning casually against the frame, his expression unreadable yet intense. The dim light caught the sharp angles of his face, and for a moment, Monica froze. Yes, she stammered. "It's beautiful. I've never seen anything like it." Funmiko stepped further into the room, eyes scanning her face. "Do you understand it?" he asked quietly. Not completely," she admitted. "But I can feel the meaning. The discipline. The care in every stroke. It's impressive." He nodded slightly, almost approvingly. "Good. You notice the details. That matters here." Monica swallowed, summoning her courage. I came here to do what I said I would. To follow through. That's why I'm here." Funmiko's dark eyes softened for a fraction of a second, then sharpened again. "Monica, I bought you for 7 days. That is all. Everything else, you will wait for it. Patience is part of this world." Her stomach twisted, but she nodded. "I understand." Before she could respond, a phone rang sharply in another room. Funmiko's expression shifted instantly, sharp, alert. He strode toward the phone, all pretense of calm disappearing in a heartbeat. "Do not wait up," he said over his shoulder, voice slow but firm. "I'll return when I can." Monica nodded, watching him disappear down the hallway. She wanted to ask questions, to understand him, but his words left her silent. Hours passed. She tried to sleep, the unfamiliar bed and strange sounds of the house making it impossible to rest fully. Just past midnight, a low groan cut through the quiet. Monica's eyes shot open. Something was wrong. She bolted from the bed and followed the sound, moving silently down the dark corridor. She paused outside his private room. Light spilled from under the door. Through the slightly open door, she saw him crouched over a small wound on his arm, blood seeping through his sleeve. He hissed softly with the pain, cleaning it carefully. His face contorted just enough to show the effort he was making to remain composed. "Funmiko," she whispered urgently, stepping forward. "Here, let me help you." He looked up, dark eyes flashing with irritation and warning. "No," he barked, pushing her gently but firmly backwards. Stay. "Do not touch this." Monica stumbled back, heart pounding. Fear, concern, and confusion collided inside her. He returned to tending the wound, meticulous and precise, ignoring her now. She bit her lip, wanting to insist, wanting to help, but she realized that in this house, in this world, he set the rules, and she had to learn them first. She stepped back quietly, watching him for a long moment before retreating to her room. Sleep didn't come easily. Her mind raced with thoughts of him, the intensity, the danger, the mystery. Monica stirred awake to the faint aroma of something savory, curling through the corridors of the house. She rubbed her eyes, her braids slightly mussed from sleep, and peered through the curtains. The morning light was dim but steady. She blinked again, startled. Funmiko was in the kitchen, cooking as if nothing had happened the night before. He chopped vegetables, his dark eyes catching the soft sunlight that filtered through the tall windows. Monica's jaw dropped slightly. "You're awake?" she asked, her voice hushed, careful. He didn't look at her immediately, just continued his movements, deliberate and controlled. "Don't ask about last night. Some things are best not questioned." Her stomach twisted, curiosity warring with respect. She hesitated near the doorway. I just, you're not to ask, he interrupted gently, finally turning his gaze toward her. There was no anger, only a steady intensity, and it made her pulse spike. Do you understand? She nodded, swallowing. Yes, I understand. He gave a faint nod, then tilted his head slightly, softening. Now, tell me about yourself, of course. He knew everything about her. He just wanted to hear it directly from her. Monica felt her face heat, but took a deep breath. I'm a medical school. I wanted to help people. But her voice faltered. Life caught up with me. My mother is sick. And my loans. I couldn't keep up. I had to do this. He listened without interruption, eyes dark, attentive. You carry yourself well, he said quietly, his voice a low rumble. She felt a strange warmth at his words, her tension easing slightly. Thank you, she whispered. He paused, then added casually, you should find something to keep you busy. If you need anything, just let me know. I'm stepping out for a while, Monica blinked, hesitant, then nodded. I will. Hours later, she wandered the house, curiosity overtaking her caution. One door, slightly ajar, caught her attention. Inside, a room glinted with steel and shadows, an arsenal of weapons neatly lined along racks, polished and menacing. Her breath hitched. Oh my God, she whispered. She took a step back, her hand covering her mouth, about to call out. Careful, he whispered into her ears. She spun around. Funmiko leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, a faint smile on his lips, his dark eyes gleaming with warning. One wrong step in this room, and I will tie you up. Do you understand? Monica swallowed hard, but refused to back down. You think threats scare me? I'm not afraid of you. He pushed off the door frame, walking slowly toward her, every step measured. Not afraid, or foolish. His voice was soft, teasing, but there was a subtle heat behind it that made her skin prickle. She hesitated, meeting his gaze. Her heart was hammering. Maybe both. He stopped just a foot away, eyes locking with hers. Careful, he murmured again, lower this time, almost a whisper. Then, before she could respond, he leaned in and kissed her. Monica froze for a heartbeat, shock and fear colliding with a strange, unexpected heat. Her body betrayed her, leaning slightly into the kiss, responding despite her mind screaming caution. When he pulled back slightly, just enough to look into her eyes, his expression was unreadable yet intimate. You're defiant, he murmured, voice husky. Almost a purr. I like that. The tension lingered, electric in the air. Monica swallowed hard, her thoughts scattered, her body buzzing with confusion, fear, and something she didn't want to name. He finally stepped back, just slightly, giving her a narrow space to breathe, stay, explore, cautiously. But remember, fire can burn both ways. Monica nodded, her lips tingling from the kiss, heart still racing. She realized that his world was dangerous, intoxicating, and utterly unpredictable. And as much as she wanted to resist, a part of her already felt drawn into it. Monica's chest heaved, her braids brushing her shoulders, as she stepped back instinctively, still flushed from the kiss. The air between them was thick, electric, and almost suffocating. She wanted to say something, apologize, explain, protest, but the words caught in her throat. Funmiko's dark eyes held hers, calm, unyielding, but soft at the edges. He didn't move closer immediately. Instead, he let the moment hang, letting her adjust to the intensity of it. You startled me, Monica finally managed, voice trembling. I could say the same, he said quietly, almost teasing, his lips curving into a faint smile. But it seemed fitting. Monica blinked, unsure how to respond. Fitting, yes, he said simply, leaning casually against the doorframe, arms crossed. You are fiery defiant. Not like the others. That drew me in. That's why I kissed you. Her pulse quickened. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, she admitted, voice slow. I came here for a reason, too, to survive, to pay my mother's bills. I wasn't expecting this. Funmiko's expression softened slightly, just enough to unsettle her. You don't need to know everything right now, he said, voice gentle but firm. Some things are best learned with time. You came here to act, yes. To follow through? Then do that first. The rest will come, Monica swallowed, trying to steady herself. I just want to do what I came here for. I don't want to get distracted. Funmiko stepped closer, though still maintaining space between them. His presence filled the room like a tangible weight. You will? I will make sure I get my money's worth. Her pants sagged instantly, aching all over her core. For a moment, silence fell. Then, almost casually, he asked, "Do you sleep well in this house?" I've been resting. Lightly, she admitted. It's different. Different. Yes, he murmured, leaning slightly closer, lowering his voice just enough that she felt it in her chest. But you should rest properly. Nights are long. Days can be unpredictable. Sleep while you can, Monica nodded again, uncertain how to respond to the subtle heat in his words. And don't wander too far, he added, a flicker of amusement in his gaze. The house has surprises. Monica arched an eyebrow. Surprises? She asked cautiously. His lips curved into a faint, almost secretive smile. Some are dangerous. Others, enlightening. You will discover both in time. Monica retreated to her room, her mind a whirlwind. The kiss, his words, his presence, they were intoxicating and dangerous all at once. She lay down, letting the weight of the moment sink in. Her hands trembled slightly as she traced the sheets, remembering the softness of his lips, the warmth of his gaze. Monica woke to the soft glow of sunlight filtering through the curtains. Her body ached slightly from restless sleep, but she felt a rare sense of quiet determination. Today is the 7th day, and Funmiko hasn't fulfilled his part of the deal. She was worried whether he would fulfill his part of the bargain. She slipped out of bed and padded to the kitchen, deciding to cook a small breakfast. As she moved around, chopping vegetables and stirring a pot of rice, she heard the soft scratch of a brush against paper from the adjoining room. Curious, she peeked inside and froze. Funmiko was sitting at a low table, paintbrush in hand, meticulously adding delicate strokes to a canvas. His posture was perfect, every motion deliberate, almost meditative. The intensity in his eyes was captivating, and for a moment, Monica forgot herself entirely. I didn't know you painted, she whispered, stepping inside. He looked up, a faint, almost shy smile tugging at his lips. Few people see this side, he said softly. Most only see the strategist, the man who decides life and death with a single choice. Art, it's simpler, honest. Monica took a cautious step closer, heart pounding. It's beautiful, she said, gesturing toward the painting. The focus, it's mesmerizing. Funmiko's dark eyes softened, scanning her face. And you, what do you see? I see contradictions, she admitted. Her voice barely above a whisper. One moment, you're ruthless, commanding, calculating. The next, you're like this, quiet, patient, calm. It's confusing. He set the brush down, rising to his full height, and walked closer, the air between them thickening. Life is contradictions, he murmured. You'll learn that soon enough. And perhaps you'll start to enjoy discovering them. Monica's chest tightened. I want to understand you, she said, stepping slightly closer, unable to resist the pull between them. Funmiko tilted his head, eyes darkening with intensity. And yet, do you understand what that might cost? I'm not afraid, she whispered. And before she could stop herself, their faces were inches apart. His hand brushed a stray braid from her face. The tension was electric, almost unbearable. Then, slowly, deliberately, he kissed her. It was soft at first, almost questioning, but as she responded, the heat and urgency between them grew. Pulling back slightly, Funmiko rested his forehead against hers. "I will teach you many things," he murmured, voice low. "Not just survival, but honor, history, art, and perhaps understanding." Monica nodded, breathless. I I want to learn. As tension builds between them, I want this with you. I can't wait any longer. I might explode if you don't touch me." It aches her, pointing to her core. He wants to make her first time memorable for her. He eased himself slowly, and they rode on the wave of passion. At that moment, the deal was sealed, but it didn't feel like an exchange to Monica. It felt like something she wanted, and she gave willingly. The ardent moment passed, and Monica clung to him. She felt fulfilled and empty at the same time. The deal has been sealed, yet she felt a knot tie in her stomach. The thought of leaving Funmiko the next day made her unhappy. Her mind went to her sick mother in bed, the house and medical bills, yet she felt unhappy. She looked at Funmiko as he slept soundly beside her, her eyes on his body. The thought of leaving him terrified her, and she didn't like that feeling. Later, inside the house, Monica dared to ask the question that had been burning in her mind. Are you a mafia leader?" He paused, considering her carefully. Curiosity killed the cat. "Today is the last day. I intend to take my money worth." He kissed her, "And being inside you made me realize I should have done this a long time ago." He kissed the nape of her neck. Monica's breath caught. She felt a wetness in her core, a heat surged through her, and her hand traced the tattoo on his body. He didn't need to admit. She knows, the blood spill coming home at night and all. She had long known. "Yes," he said, voice low, rough with emotion. "I can't get enough of you, Monica." The words hung between them like a spark waiting to ignite. Monica's pulse raced, the weight of his confession blending with desire, fear, and something tender. She stepped closer, touching his chest lightly. I feel the same." Funmiko's lips found hers again, urgent now, as if the tension between them could no longer be contained. Clothes became secondary. Monica closed her eyes, letting herself melt into him, the warmth, the danger, the desire. For the first time, she realized that love, even in a world built on violence and strategy, could bloom. Fragile but fierce, like a flower growing in the shadow of a battlefield. The house was silent, save for the soft rustle of leaves outside the sliding doors and the distant, muffled hum of the city. Monica lay awake, tangled in the warmth and scent of Funmiko's skin, the quiet of the night pressing against the events of the day and the intimacy they had shared. Her heart was still racing, not from desire, but from the realization that something inside her had shifted irrevocably. She turned onto her side, watching him sleep, the lines of his jaw relaxed, his breathing even, the ruthless strategist, the Yakuza leader, the man who had struck fear into so many here. In these quiet moments, he was simply human. Her chest tightened. "I love him." The thought startled her. The word itself felt almost too large for the quiet, dark room. She traced a hand over his shoulder lightly, hesitant, as if even touching him might shatter the fragile moment, but the warmth beneath her palm made her pulse accelerate, and she felt a trembling determination. She couldn't keep it bottled up anymore. Quietly, so as not to wake him, Monica slipped out of bed. The night air, cool against her skin, followed her as she moved toward the sliding doors leading to the garden. She needed to see the koi ponds, to feel grounded in the serene beauty of this place, away from the chaos of her own thoughts. The garden was bathed in silver moonlight. The koi swirled gracefully in the pond, their scales shimmering like liquid fire under the moon. Monica knelt by the edge, watching the fish ripple through the water. "You're awake," came the soft, smooth voice of Funmiko behind her. She jumped slightly but didn't turn immediately, heart fluttering. "I didn't hear you," she murmured, finally looking up. He stood in the shadows, dark eyes catching the moonlight, arms crossed loosely, expression calm but sharp. "You should not be outside alone," he said quietly, stepping closer. The night is unpredictable. I know, she replied softly. But I needed to think. Her eyes returned to the koi, the gentle ripples of the water reflecting her inner turmoil. To understand what's happening in my heart. Funmiko's gaze softened slightly, but his posture remained firm. And what is happening in your heart? He asked carefully. She inhaled, letting the words tumble out before fear could stop her. I love you, she whispered, the confession raw and trembling. Her pulse raced, not from fear, but from relief at having finally said it. For a long moment, Funmiko said nothing. The stillness of the night pressed against them, broken only by the gentle splash of the koi. His eyes darkened, reflecting the moonlight, and for the first time, "You must not say that," he said finally, voice slow, measured, almost painful in its restraint. "I am not built for it." Monica's heart skipped. "Not built for love?" she asked, disbelief and hope warring in her chest. He took a careful step closer, lowering his gaze. "I am built for survival. Strategy. Control. Protection. Not for attachments. Not for sentiment. You are reckless with your heart, Monica. You cannot risk it now." She looked up at him, feeling a mixture of defiance and desperation. "But I already love you," she said softly, her voice shaking. "I can't help it," he sighed, the faintest tremor in his shoulders betraying the weight of her words. "Tomorrow," he said slowly, his dark eyes locking with hers, "the deal ends. Everything changes. You must not speak of this again. Do you understand?" She swallowed hard, a lump forming in her throat. "Yes," she whispered. Her eyes dropped to the shimmering koi in the pond. She wanted to argue, to tell him it didn't matter, that her feelings were real, but she obeyed. "Good," he murmured, taking a measured step back, the tension still thick between them. For a long moment, they stood in silence, the moonlight washing over them. The koi moved gracefully, oblivious to the tension, the danger, and the fragile confessions between the two humans crouched in the night. Finally, Funmiko turned, his steps silent against the stone path, and led her back inside. His hand brushed lightly against hers. Monica followed, her mind racing. Her love for him was now fully realized, yet she understood the danger. The night, the deal, the rival clans, everything hung over them like a storm cloud. She had no illusions. Saying the words had changed nothing about the peril that awaited them. But as she lay back in bed, the moonlight spilling across her face, tomorrow everything could end. And yet, for now, in this fleeting, fragile moment, she let herself feel. She let herself love. Monica knew it was the last day before she even opened her eyes. It sat on her chest like a stone. For days, she had tried not to think about it. But today, the deal has ended. And that meant leaving him. She stayed under the blankets longer than she should have, staring into the dim light behind her closed eyelids. The bed still held the faint warmth from where Funmiko had been, the scent of him lingering on the sheets. "Don't cry, not yet," she said to herself eventually. Reality forced her to move. She reached across the mattress. It was cold and empty. Her eyes opened. The other side of the bed was empty. She pushed herself up slowly, heart beginning to pound. The room felt still. No quiet footsteps in the hall. No distant sound of a phone call. No low murmur of his voice giving orders in another room. "Funmiko," she called softly. Silence answered. A flicker of unease ran through her as she slipped out of bed and wrapped a robe round herself. She stepped into the hallway. Empty. The house felt different, vacant. That was when she saw it. An envelope rested neatly on the low table near the entrance. She walked toward it slowly. Her fingers trembled as she picked it up, already knowing this was goodbye. Inside was a letter, a bank check, and several official-looking documents. She unfolded the letter first. Monica, by the time you read this, I will already be gone. Goodbyes are inefficient. Your mother's hospital bills have been paid in full. Your student debt has also been cleared. You are free. The driver will arrive in 1 hour to take you wherever you wish to go. Enclosed is an open check. Consider it a beginning, not an ending. The agency will also transfer your agreed compensation separately. Live well. Be careful with your trust. Choose a life that does not require you to stand in rooms like mine again. F. Her hand flew to her mouth. Tears spilt, hot and fast. The check slipped slightly in her shaking hand. Her vision swam. She clutched the paper to her chest. A broken sound escaped her before she could stop it. She sank onto the edge of the couch, crying into her hands, not the sharp sobs of panic, but the deep, aching kind that came from loving someone you were never meant to keep. He paid everything, she whispered to herself through tears. Mama's okay. Relief and heartbreak tangled inside her until she couldn't tell them apart. She thought about her mother's tired smile in the hospital bed, the way she had squeezed Monica's hand, the guilt Monica carried for disappearing for a week with only a vague excuse about a project opportunity. At least I can go back now. At least I didn't lie for nothing. She laughed weakly through tears. You idiot, she muttered to herself. You fell in love with a ghost. Still, she was grateful. Truly grateful. He had kept his word. More than his word. She wiped her face, trying to steady herself. 1 hour. Then she'd see her mother again. Sit beside her. Hold her hand. Tell her everything was going to be okay. For the first time in years, it actually might be. She folded the letter carefully and held it to her chest one last time before placing it back in the envelope. Then she stood and walked toward the garden doors, needing air. The koi pond shimmered in the morning light, peaceful. And changed. As if nothing had happened here. As if her heart hadn't been cracked open under these same trees. Goodbye, she whispered. A breeze rustled the maple leaves. And then a sharp hand clamped over her mouth. Monica gasped, but the sound was swallowed by a gloved palm. Her body jerked as an arm wrapped around her waist, yanking her backward hard enough to steal her balance. Panic exploded through her. She kicked, clawed, tried to scream, but another figure grabbed her wrists, twisting them painfully behind her back. MMMPH. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Got her, a voice muttered in Japanese. Her blood ran cold. A black van was parked just beyond the side gate, a gate that had never, ever been left open before. They were waiting, a cloth pressed against her face. A chemical smell flooded her nose. She thrashed violently, tears streaming, lungs burning as she tried not to breathe it in. Her vision blurred. The last thing she saw was the koi pond rippling gently into the morning sun, as if the world hadn't just shattered. Then everything went dark. Monica woke slowly, as if surfacing from the bottom of a deep, dark ocean, her senses returning in fragments instead of all at once. There was a bitter metallic taste in her mouth, a throbbing ache behind her eyes. Before she even opened her eyes, she knew something was wrong. When she tried to move her hands, pain flared sharply along her wrists. Her heart began to race as awareness snapped into place. She forced her eyes open. She was seated on a metal chair in the center of a dim warehouse room, her wrists bound tightly behind her back with thick plastic restraints. Her ankles tied to the legs of the chair so firmly that even shifting her weight sent vibrations of pain up her legs. A single bulb hung from the ceiling, swaying slightly as if disturbed not long ago, and with every slow swing, it threw warped shadows across the cracked walls, turning the room into a cage of moving darkness. Memory hit her all at once. A slow, deliberate clap echoed from somewhere beyond the light. Well, a smooth voice said from the darkness as footsteps approached at an unhurried pace, the little weakness finally wakes up. A man stepped into the glow of the hanging bulb, and Monica's stomach dropped as if the floor had vanished beneath her. He was dressed in a sharp, tailored suit that looked absurdly expensive for a place like this, his expression composed in a way that felt more dangerous than open rage. A thin scar traced along his jawline, pale against his skin. Two men lingered behind him in the shadows, silent and watchful, their postures relaxed in the way of people who were very used to violence. Who are you?" Monica asked, her voice dry and steady, the words scraping painfully out of her throat. The man tilted his head slightly, studying her reaction as if it were entertaining. "You don't recognize me, which means Funmiko kept you far away from the business side of his life. And that is interesting." He gave a small, humorless smile. "My name is Sato," he continued, crouching down in front of her so that their eyes were level. "And you are the reason a very long and very careful war is about to shift in our favor." Her pulse roared in her ears. "War? Yes," Sato said calmly, as if discussing a change in the weather rather than bloodshed. "Funmiko is known for discipline and for never allowing emotion to interfere with him." Monica shook her head weakly, tears already gathering. "I'm not important. I was just—" "Do not insult us," Sato snapped, the sudden edge in his voice cutting through the air like a blade. "Men like him do not alter security patterns, shift guard rotations, and disappear from meetings for just anyone. We have eyes everywhere, and we noticed the moment you entered his life." He stood, straightening his jacket. "You were taken because pain is persuasive, and Funmiko is about to be very persuaded." Funmiko saw the gate open. Inside, the house looked untouched at first glance, but the silence was deafening, stretching to wide between rooms that should have carried the faint echoes of life. Then he saw the letter on the table had been opened. He moved past it and continued toward the garden. The koi pond shimmered under the morning light, but near the side wall, one of his guards lay slumped against the stones, blood darkening his hair and collar. Funmiko knelt beside him and asked, "Who?" The guard coughed weakly. "Our rival clan, Sato. They knew about her." Funmiko dialed a number and said, "Lock down all ports and private airstrips," he said. "Trace every Sato movement in the last 12 hours. I want locations, vehicles, safe houses, and communications." There was a pause on the other end. "And send a message to the Crota clan. Tell them the truce is over." Sato paced slowly in front of her, his polished shoes echoing softly against the concrete floor, as though this were a boardroom instead of a warehouse prison. "You should feel honored," he said lightly. "Very few people ever matter enough to change the balance of power in the city." "I didn't choose this," Monica whispered, her shoulders trembling. "No," he agreed, stopping in front of her. "But he chose you, and that makes you valuable. Once we send him proof that you are alive," Sato continued, "we will offer him a choice. Territory, or you." Monica lifted her chin despite the fear clawing through her chest. "He won't come," Sato smiled, slow and confident. "He already is." Funmiko stood inside the armory. One of his lieutenants approached. "We located her. Abandoned shipping warehouse near the east docks. Heavy guard presence." Funmiko checked the chamber of his handgun. "Alive?" he asked. "Yes." A breath left him so quietly it was almost invisible. "Good," he said, and when he looked up, his expression had turned into something that promised no mercy. "Then we move now." Night fell thick and heavy over the docks, and rain began to pour in relentless sheets that blurred lights and swallowed sound, turning the world into streaks of shadow and silver. Inside the warehouse, Monica's hope had thinned into a fragile thread when the first distant gunshot cracked through the air like thunder splitting open the sky. Her head snapped up. Another shot followed, closer this time, then shouting, boots pounding on metal walkways, orders barked in panic instead of control. Something heavy crashed, and the lights overhead flickered once before dying completely, plunging the warehouse into darkness. Fear gripped her throat. Sato swore somewhere beyond the doorway. Then chaos erupted. Gunfire burst in rapid succession, muzzle flashes briefly illuminating silhouettes in violent snapshots, bodies falling, men scrambling. The door to her room exploded inward, slamming against the wall. A tall figure filled the doorway, motionless for only a fraction of a second before moving with lethal certainty. Funmiko, she breathed, her voice breaking with relief. He crossed the room in seconds, cutting through her restraints with a blade, his hands steady and efficient even as his eyes burned with controlled fury. "Can you stand?" he asked. She nodded, though her legs shook, and he pulled her up, immediately positioning her behind him, one arm slightly extended as a shield. At the end of the corridor, Sato appeared, gun raised and fury twisting his features. "You came exactly as..." The shot rang out, and Sato fell mid-sentence. Funmiko did not hesitate, did not speak, did not look back. He turned to Monica, his hand briefly cupping her face as his eyes scanned for injuries. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, tears spilling freely now. "You came." "Of course I did," he said quietly, and there was no strategy in his voice now, only truth. More shouting echoed through the warehouse, sirens wailing faintly in the distance as the night filled with consequences. "Stay behind me," he told her firmly. "We leave." Now, she clung to the back of his jacket, her fingers fisting into the fabric as if letting go meant disappearing into the chaos behind them. They pushed into the main loading bay, where rain poured through the open dock doors and wind held through the metal beams overhead. Several of Funmiko's men had already secured parts of the perimeter, but shots still rang out from the upper catwalks, sharp and unpredictable. "Left side clear," one of his men shouted over the noise. Funmiko stepped forward, scanning the shadows with sharp, assessing eyes, and Monica saw it a second before he did. A man crouched along the second-level walkway, partially hidden behind a steel support beam, his rifle already raised and aimed with deadly focus. She saw the line of sight and saw where Funmiko stood. She understood what would happen next. "Funmiko!" she screamed, launching herself forward without thinking. The gunshot exploded through the warehouse, louder than the rest, final and unmistakable. For one suspended, unbearable moment, time seemed to fracture. Funmiko turned at the sound of her voice, just as Monica collided with him, and something slammed into her back with brutal force, stealing the air from her lungs and sending heat tearing through her side. Her body went weak instantly. Funmiko caught her before she hit the ground, his arms locking round her as the world snapped back into motion and gunfire erupted in furious response. His men returned fire toward the catwalk, bullets sparking against metal until the shooter collapsed and disappeared from view. But Funmiko didn't look. He was already on his knees, holding her. Blood spread rapidly through her clothes, warm and horrifying against his hands as he pressed hard against the wound, trying to slow what felt unstoppable. "Stay with me," he said, and for the first time since she had known him, his voice was stripped of its calm, breaking under the weight of fear. "Monica, look at me. Stay awake." Her vision blurred, light smearing into streaks as pain pulsed through her body in distant waves. "You're safe," she whispered faintly. "I saw he was going to." "Don't talk," he said, his voice rough, almost shaking. "Save your strength." She tried to smile, but everything was fading fast. The last thing she saw before darkness took her was Funmiko's face hovering over hers. Monica was awake, but still, her body heavy with pain medication, her side wrapped in thick bandages that pulled whenever she breathed too deeply. Funmiko had not moved from the chair beside her bed. He sat forward, elbows resting on his knees, one hand still wrapped around hers, as though she might disappear if he loosened his grip. "You should rest," Monica murmured, her voice soft but clearer than before. His eyes lifted immediately. "So should you." She gave him a small smile. "I did." "You look like you fought a war." "I did," he replied. Silence settled between them. After a moment, Monica's expression shifted, worry creeping in as a new thought pushed through the haze of recovery. "My mom," she said quietly, her fingers tightening slightly round his. "She's going to worry if she doesn't hear from me." Funmiko nodded once, already prepared. "She was informed that your project was extended unexpectedly, and that you would have limited contact for a few days due to travel," he said calmly. She was reassured that you were safe. Monica exhaled, relief softening her face. Thank you, she whispered. I hate lying to her. You are protecting her from a truth she cannot safely hold, he said gently. That is not the same as betrayal. She nodded, though guilt still flickered in her eyes. Can I maybe do a video call later? Just to see her face. Before he could answer, there was a soft knock, and the doctor stepped inside with a nurse, checking her chart and monitors. Monica repeated the request, her voice hopeful but fragile. The doctor offered a sympathetic smile. Not just yet, he said. You lost blood, underwent surgery, and your body needs real rest, not emotional stress. Let's give it a little more time. All right. We want you strong before anything that might excite you too much. Monica sighed but nodded. Okay, the room was filled with silence after the doctors left. Are you angry at me? She asked. Why would I be? His brows drew together. I jumped in front of a bullet, she said. A quiet breath left him, almost a disbelieving huff. I am not angry, he said slowly. I am terrified of how close I came to losing you. It saved yours, she whispered. His jaw tightened as he looked away briefly, emotion passing over his face before he mastered it. I was trained to remove weaknesses, he said. To cut away anything that could be used against me. But you, his eyes returned to hers. You made me want something different. Tears filled her eyes again, but she smiled through them. Good different, the kind that terrifies me, he admitted. Because now I know exactly what I stand to lose. You didn't lose me, she squeezed his hand gently. No, he said quietly. But I almost did. And that is enough to change everything. A soft knock interrupted them as the nurse returned briefly to adjust her for, and when the room quieted again, Monica asked the question that lingered beneath everything. Funmiko, what happens now? He didn't answer right away. The war that started last night will not disappear quietly, he said at last. Removing Sato created a vacuum, and others will try to fill it. My world is shifting, and violence always follows power shifts. And me? She asked. His eyes met hers, steady and unguarded. You were supposed to leave, he said. You were supposed to have a clean break, a life far from this. His thumb brushed lightly over her hand. But you took a bullet meant for me. You are no longer outside this world, whether I want that for you or not. She held his gaze, calm despite everything. I don't want to be outside your world. Pain flickered across his face. Loving me is dangerous, he said. I noticed, she replied softly. Despite himself, the corner of his mouth lifted faintly. I cannot promise you safety, he continued. I cannot promise normal. I cannot even promise time. There will be danger, Monica. There will be nights like the one that put you in this bed. She didn't look away. Then promise me honesty, she said. And that you won't push me away to protect me without asking what I want. He studied her for a long moment, as if weighing something heavier than any deal he had ever made. I can promise that, he said at last. Then I'm staying, she said quietly. Not because I don't understand the danger, but because I do. And I choose you anyway. He leaned forward carefully and pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead, mindful of the wires and bandages. His hand still wrapped around hers like an anchor. Outside the hospital walls, the underworld was already rearranging itself, power shifting in the wake of bloodshed, new threats rising in the space Sato left behind. It had been a full year since the chaos, a year of recovery, healing, and quiet victories. Monica's mother was finally strong, far from the hospital's sterile walls, her health fully restored, moving with energy that had been absent during her illness. When Monica first brought Funmiko home, her mother had been understandably surprised. She had only met him briefly over a video call Monica had staged under the guise of a work project. Monica had explained that she met him while on an extended assignment. Her mother had smiled knowingly at her daughter's careful story, still protective but choosing to give her blessing, trusting Monica's judgment. And perhaps sensing the depth of the bond between Monica and the man who had risked everything for her. Now, sitting together in the sunlit kitchen of their countryside home, the air smelled of fresh herbs and simmering sauces. Monica, heavy with her second trimester, rested one hand over her stomach while watching her mother chop vegetables and stir pots, preparing the foods Monica had been craving for weeks. "You really outdid yourself today, Mom," Monica said softly, smiling. "I think this smells even better than any restaurant could manage." Her mother chuckled, sprinkling salt over a pan. "You're lucky I'm a good cook," she said. "And lucky that you survived last year's scares to enjoy it." Monica's gaze softened as she touched her belly. "I wouldn't have made it without him." Just then, the front door opened and Funmiko stepped inside. Monica's heart leapt as he strode toward her, tall and composed. Without hesitation, he enveloped her in a hug, pressing his lips to her temple in a familiar, comforting gesture. "I missed you," he murmured, his hands lingering possessively over her stomach. Monica leaned into him, laughing lightly. "I think you've got a serious problem with keeping your hands to yourself," she teased. Funmiko turned toward her mother and bowed slightly, his dark eyes meeting hers with quiet respect. "It's good to see you well, ma'am," he said with his usual calm authority. Her mother's eyebrows lifted in surprise at the man she had come to know during the last year, and she smiled warmly. "Good to see you too, Funmiko," she said, giving him a nod of approval. They exchanged small talk as Monica's mother prepared the meal, laughter rising easily, the tension of past dangers fading in the warmth of the home. Monica felt the deep contentment of seeing them both relaxed, safe, and alive. "So, it's been a year," Monica said softly, brushing a braid from her face. "And here we are. All quiet, finally." Funmiko's eyes darkened slightly, a shadow of the past lingering. "The world outside still shifts. There are always threats. But here, with you, I have peace." Monica smiled, resting her head against his shoulder. "And our love." He pressed a slow, lingering kiss to her temple. "Stronger than ever," he murmured, hands brushing instinctively along her stomach, a reminder of the life they had created together. "You make this world bearable." Monica rested her head against his chest, smiling contentedly. "I'll stay, for every risk," she said softly, and in the warm glow of the home, the sound movement of the unborn child in her stomach, and the lingering heat of each other's closeness, they both knew that this was home, this was love, and this was exactly where they were meant to be.